Welcome everyone to a very exciting morning, because like many of you, I started off being really good at what I did. And being really good at what I did doesn't necessarily mean I'm a good leader. So most people that I've noticed, they're really good at doing something. They're good at fixing a bicycle. And then they say, well, I'm going to set up a bicycle shop. And what they're really good at is putting bikes together. And then, so there's this shift, if you like, from the doing to actually leading. My name is Barry Ockertell, and I am a life visionary, because what I do is I help people have a clear vision of who they are. And I actually started off looking at physical eyesight and recognise vision's a lot more than just eyesight. And so now I help people and I get to literally clear blocks in less than a minute. And what we're going to do here today, we've got an amazing panel here today to share with you their insights of how do we move from being a boss to being a leader. So I'm going to get into it straight away. We're going to get each person before they speak to introduce themselves, because each person here is qualified to run the entire hour. So we're going to get the best of each person in this time. And so I've got a series of questions I'm going to go through, and I want to start with that first identity shift. You know, I'm no longer just the person who can fix bikes. I'm now in charge of this bike store with staff and all sorts of things going on. So Eric, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, please. And the question we're going to ask you is, what was the moment you realised that being a great doer just wasn't enough anymore?
I'm Erica Hansen, CEO founder of the Wisdom Collective Companies. We are business fixers. So broken companies, we reorganize them, we do training.
Could you use the mic closer to your mouth, please?
Are they on? Can you hear me? Is that better? Yeah, okay. So we are business fixers. We reorganize companies starting with accounting and working our way through operations. So we fix a lot of the things that get away from the leaders. So shifting from the doer role into the leader role, it's always hard. When you are I don't know if you remember your very first supervisor job, right? And you had to learn to do all the people things and everything else, and transitioning from doer to leader is a very difficult thing. I found going from the doer hands-on to the CEO spots was very interesting, because you're responsible for everything, but you're really doing nothing in some cases. But when I noticed the shift was I was doing too much, and I felt really, really overwhelmed. And so I brought in people to help, and that's when I started trusting the team, because you have trouble letting go. So you trust the team. You hired them for their expertise, so use it.
Right, thank you. That's a great point to start with, have to bring people in. We all resist that, but it's such a great point. Thank you. Marty, I'm going to get you to answer that same question from your perspective.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Marty Herbert, the co-founder of Herbert Insights and Innovations. We do business process improvement and workflow automation for highly regulated companies. Help them, take everything that is fixed and help to automate around the human-centered processes, especially in the back office. And I think one of the biggest, moments for me was, the first time we had that contract that was coming up, and I realized that, I had a lot of subcontractors and not a lot of time. So that the big shift really occurred for me when I realized that not only was I doing a little too much, but I had to let go really of everything that I knew, because I fixed the bicycles, and you know, and made sure they kept running. But all of a sudden, it didn't become about the bicycles. It became about making sure that the people that I was bringing in really could do the types of things that I was doing, and helping to kind of lead and mentor them into the roles that I thought I was pretty good at. But now I was finding out that there were people that were better than me because I could make them better than me. So that big shift kind of occurred for me, you know, when time starts to run out.
Awesome, thank you. Great point. So already we've got two amazing points here, and time is always a big factor, of course, of anyone, and particularly when you become a leader. I want to move to this area of the shift, and really this is around the area of control versus trust. And Catherine, I'm going to ask you this one, is this shift going from control to trust, it's more than just an operational shift to me, it's an internal shift. So would you like to introduce yourself and just comment on that, please?
Yes, thanks very much, Barry. So I'm CEO and founder of Ignition Institute. We partner with businesses to help them drive growth or unlock growth, and equally in that scale and build value through the business. And we pay real attention to what that embedded competitive strategy is, and then support them in truly aligning all of their efforts behind that. And then equally looking at how leaders can unlock the firepower throughout their organisations. And we do that through facilitation and training. What we don't do is do it for them. We need to build the capability in those organisations so it can continue to grow. And just as Erica said, this is not a light switch. This is something that piece by piece occurs. And so we work with a lot of organisations. I mean, I've experienced it myself, but we work with a lot of organisations in the entrepreneurial space. And if you look at that founder model, and even the CEOs who come in who are really equipped to drive that next phase of growth, they do this instinctively, particularly the founder. They're the walking book of mission, vision, values, competitive strategy, the plan, everything. And for very good reason, the people who begin to work with them believe in them, follow, and they take their direction from that leader. The reality is, though, that reaches a point where it starts to constrain growth. Pretty much the same thing happens with a CEO who comes to drive that next phase of growth. They often come in with a tight team, they know what they're doing, they've got their playbook, but again, the control is still held at the top. And this is a transformation. This is going from a great thinker and an instinctive way of communicating and conveying the strategy through the organisation to something that is much more akin to leading and creating the environment where people can come to work each day knowing why they're there and doing their best to actually unlock the power of that strategy. And that's the transition. And it's not a light switch. You might think, okay, what are the levers? How do I know as a founder, as a CEO? You'll reach a bandwidth level. We often see that, you know, a founder can actually get to quite a large organisation, oddly enough, 50, 80 people that are a big blob around them, and people are still waiting, and they can still be performing, but a lot of untapped potential is sitting there. So it's really about finding ways to step back, and often in both of those instances, it's bringing in, and I don't mind what role you call it, but a translator. Could call it a COO, but someone who can translate, capture that vision, and then help bring that to life through that organisation. The other thing is growth starts to slow, and your owners may well think, hang on, we need to do something differently. Or the founder is moving to an exit, and they've got to equip, they've got to actually position their business. So those are often the catalysts, and you really need to build the capability through a leadership that understands how to do this. And that's very often, as I say, the COO who's got deep people experience and can switch it on for every individual through the organisation, and a strategic CFO that can work alongside to make sure that economic formula stays. But it's not simple, and every journey is different.
Thank you. Wonderful. Look, and in my own situation, I came from a situation where I was the operational manager, which really meant I did everything from cleaning up to, you know, doing high executive coaching. And then what I decided to do is I actually created an amazing 6-figure income business, and I was really proud of that. But I always wanted to scale up, and I wanted to scale up to a 7-8 figure. I can't do that just by myself. And recognised really early, like people have been saying, I have to bring in a team. Now bringing in a team is great, but no one does it as well as I do they? You know, that's the mental process going on. And so I bring in a team, but then I've got to allow the team to actually run. And in running it, it really takes trust. You know, I created a program using a technique that I created called light body alignment. And I was the only one that could do that. But until I could train others to do it and to run with the process with the clients that we have, it was always bottlenecked, as Catherine said, always bottlenecked by me at the top. And so what I've learned to do is to delegate. And the more I delegate and simply trust the team, I have an amazing group of people who are as passionate as I am about the work that we do. And the work that we do is really about shifting lives, one person at a time, to allow people their light to shine, not just for themselves, but for others to extend. And so I'm really passionate about this whole idea of upscaling through team. And really my internal process is about then trusting that team. And that brings me to this third area. The third area we want to look at is a lot of pressure around this. You know, trying to sort of shift from sort of single to a large, you know, team leadership basis. So what I'm really interested in is how have you learned to lead from clarity rather than stress? And Andrew, we're going to start with you with this one.
Sure, not a problem. My name is Andrew Paxis. I'm part of All Care Provider. We provide services over to the home for post-acute at home. And again, it's like, how do you provide clarity with so much ambiguity, some noise out there as a leader? Like, you have to be very stern and know what you want. That mission, vision, value is very important, but how do you bestow that to your teams, to your communities? And how do you develop to your teams, like Bear is saying, is like, and you entrust in that. You cannot shoulder this on your own. As a leader, you have to really pronounce and really communicate through them very precisely, especially with the recent Los Angeles fires, earthquakes. I mean, with say COVID, everyone has learned a lot through that. Truth be said, we pivoted, but as a leader and a founder, you have to stay strong, right? Stay strong on what's going to happen, because as a leader, people are looking up to you. And there's so many which ways and buts, but again, your mission, vision, values, and the people who you build up is highly important for you, because not only are you there, but they're looking for an answer that people are underneath you. And for All Care itself, we pronounce onto the national level for National Alliance, and also our team members underneath that represents our brand also bestows that as well. Not only on the political aspect of it, economical aspect of it, but also out to communities with our big programs that we currently have. And that's why holistically we have a great founding team over here, and we all have the same message, right? But under stress, under tillage, you have to stay strong and not waver through the big winds and eddies and flows part.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, if we hire and go, oh, we're not too sure, it's going to be really hard to lead from that perspective, isn't it? All right, thank you. Haroon, can we get you to comment on that as well, please?
Sure. My name is Haroon Cowens. I am the president, CEO, and founder of Goshen Development. We're a real estate development firm in the city center of Denver that also spreads to the Front Range of Colorado. And, you know, our history is 10 years this year. We've managed over $500 million of assets under management and have great public-private partnerships. I think when we talk about pressure, pressure is where I feel purpose is born. In the last 10 years, especially in our economic upswing in Colorado, unaffordability was one of the pressures that we were seeing in real estate development. And one of the areas specifically is we were looking at our workforce housing, how that was being eliminated. And so for us, it was not changing the business model, but leaning into the pressure of the external environment. And as was articulated earlier, you have to have a strategic vision. Vision is one of the biggest things. If you don't have the vision, you don't have the ability to lead through the pressure. And for us, we had a vision, and that vision was how do we solve the situation with also innovation. And so innovation comes through pressure. And so we were able to innovate, we went to legislature to create a bill that got passed for Colorado, the first of its kind in the nation, where we created the Middle Income Housing Authority. And so pressure is what leaders have to face. You face it either with your capital, you face it with the environment, you face it with the macro environment or micro environment. And so pressure is something that we should accept. But it's just how do you get through the pressure? And I think leadership is where you wear that hat, where you take that pressure, you be able to distill it to your employees, to your partners, and to be able to say, this is how we get through it. And then you make that pressure and apply it to become productive and purpose. And so for us, that's where I live in. I live in the pressure every day. I mean, the pressure is daily. As a leader, everyone depends on you. And so, and then you're able to aggregate it where there is a purpose there. And so for us is we create a culture of not just pressure, but taking that pressure, create innovation, continue a vision, and then also have a product that alleviates the pressure to a solution. And so that's how we take it.
You look so calm for someone that deals with pressure all the time. So I want to acknowledge you for that you've got to hold that energy.
You do every day.
Awesome, well done. Which gets to the point, what's going on internally here? We have to deal with the pressure and still appear calm. There's no point turning up saying, I'm under pressure, I can't do this. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't instill great leadership. So the next question I've got is, how much of leadership in your experience is actually an internal game? And Catherine, I'm going to get you to have a go at this one, if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly. So picking up on the comments that my colleagues have made around the importance of mission and vision, and they really are, because they get to the heart of what we stand for, who we are, and where we want to take this organisation. But a piece, particularly in founding organisations, and as I say, with those CEOs who can do that next growth stage, is the competitive strategy. And the word strategy is just used all over the show. And competitive strategy is quite simple. It answers three key questions. What are we offering to the marketplace? Who are we taking that to? And how are we differentiating? And there are a whole lot more things, but fundamentally, that's what it's about. And that's what founders do incredibly well. And they don't go and get a McKinsey or a PowerPoint deck. Instinctively, they see an opportunity, they take it to market, they hone it. And that means that competitive strategy, they learn, they iterate, they figure out how to get better and better and better. Just as Haroon was sharing, the reality is that the competitive strategy sits deep within them, and they don't even know it's there. And when you talk about strategy, they'll often say, no, we don't bother with any of that, we don't need to. But it's actually inside them. And so it does become a mental block. And I remember speaking with a founder who I'd met who'd grown a really substantial organisation. And we were talking over dinner, and I said, wonderful. So what are you going to do when you leave the organisation or transition and pull back a little bit? He said, no, that'll be fine. And I said, well, it's fine while you're the walking book of mission, vision, values, competitive strategy, the lead KPIs that you watch. But that transition point, you won't even know what you know. He said, no, it's all fine. My son's going to take over. I said, even so, you need to get it out of your head. He said, no, we don't need any of that. We don't even need to meet. I was sufficiently curious, and this was early in my career, and I thought I'd come and watch this transition. Now, millions, I'm talking hundreds of millions of value was destroyed at that transition. And that's what we see as the biggest mental block, is that founders and growth CEOs who built their playbooks in the trenches, they don't even know how they're winning. And what we find is being able to draw that out along with the mission and the vision to incredibly important contextual questions and values and the culture they're shaping. But if you don't know how you're positioning to win in the marketplace, that's the foundation of your business. And that mental block, I find, is critical. And the next one is then I'm the only one that can do it. But if you can get it out and prove to them that it's out, and then gradually take that through your organisation, and evidence can demonstrate that other people are picking this up, that's how we see real power being unlocked through the organisation.
Thank you. And Haroon, I'm going to get your comment on this as well, coming from this pressure viewpoint. So I'll repeat the question, is in your experience, how much of leadership is actually an internal game?
Well, I think it's all an internal game. I mean, the vision is something that gets cultivated internally, and then it is also impacted externally to again, like I said earlier, your partners, your employees, those that you work with. I think that culture comes internally. It is not something that just you see someone else adapt. You have to have that own adaptation from inside, and also the willpower to not only look at the situations and pressure and circumstances, but the willpower to say, hey, listen, we're going here, and I know the road might be winding, but I have some internal fortitude to be able to get there, and I can see that. And so every morning you wake up, you think about these things, and it's from an internal perspective. And how do you take that internal perspective, distill it, right? Because there's either fear or, in my case, faith. And you take those things, and then you be able to communicate them well externally. And I think that once you have that internally as a leader, then you also have trust, right? Because you know you can't do it alone. So you find other partners, you find other employees that have that same same capacity to be able to take the vision that you have internally and be able to externalize it where it's either a product or a service that now your clients can feel. So for me, I think it all starts within.
Great points there, and I just recognise what you're saying. It has to start with internal before external.
Definitely.
That's really what I'm hearing. Can we just hear one sentence? Is there any other panellists want to add to that, just with one sentence, one or two sentences? Because I want to move on and keep this going. But it's such an important area. Erica, did you want to add?
So when we were talking about the strategy, right, and the doers, one of the things that I found, because I have a very interesting specialty, right? So I started in the accounting realm, and as CFO, and then walked through the whole organization. Well, it's not something that's most CFOs do, right? They don't have a lot of operations crossover, right? They're numbers people. That's the accountants. That's in their wheelhouse, right? They're an accountant. They're a numbers person. So when I started reorganizing companies and cleaning them up, I realized that I had a unique skill set. And one of the things that I had to find was, the mini-me's, right? You have to find some mini-me's because otherwise the model wasn't going to work. So I'm always looking for talent, and I need not only the CFO background, but the COO type background, because I need some other people to lead those projects, because some of them are multi-year projects, right? We're completely reorganizing an entire organization, right? And sometimes they're in distress. So it's literally the house is burning down and everybody's hair is on fire. So I had to be very good at finding talent and then basically just training a mini-me. And I had to be able to find those people that had that aptitude, because not everybody in that, the CFO realm has the aptitude to cross over, and then hone that talent and then get the stuff out of my head, right? And then find those project leaders and then supplement them with the people that fill the other pieces, right? Until we had the other ones that we were developing into the project leaders. And so it is mission, vision, and strategy. But you do have to do mini-me's in some cases, depending on, my group needed mini-me's in order to be successful. And it was hard. It's a very hard transition.
And one of the things I've recognised people talking, a lot of this internal talk is a pattern that we have. And this pattern for me is both, subconscious and also this subconscious aspect. And most of us live in a world where we operate with 10% consciousness. 90% of what we do is subconscious. And one of the things I've recognised is sometimes they give us affirmations. And my belief is affirmations are only good if we believe in them. Because I can give you an affirmation, I am a leader. And you go, okay, well, I'm a leader now. And the back of your mind goes, well, no, I'm not. You know, I wasn't that good at school, really, and I was hiding behind those other kids, or maybe I'm not, shouldn't be up here, really. And so all these stories going on. And then they have people that say, I'll say this 100 times and you believe it. You say, I'm a leader, I'm a leader. And your subconscious is on a couch going, no, you're not, no, you're not. I'll keep this up all day. So until we clear the subconscious component, the hidden aspect of who we are, then our leadership is really surface level. Where we can go deeper and really express who we are. The one thing I've seen from each one of these panellists is we get to see who they really are. And real leaders really shine from within. It's not necessarily about what they do on the external. That's the outcome. So the next question I've got is really going to start with Andrew, is how much do you believe your company culture is a reflection of you as a leader?
We always talk about IQ versus EQ, right? Amongst the whole strategy system. But I mean, you have to create a very much culture of safety with all of your talent, right? Including with your partnerships as well. Because your mission, vision, values are highly important, but also strategy is also important as well. But creating a culture where everyone could feel safe, especially we take a look at the veterans, right? We take a look at fire department, police department. They go into dangerous situations, right? But there's a culture in there that we always see in military and any standardized processes. But we're like, why is that not average norm? But they develop a good culture of safety that they could be really reliant on. They have great educators, have great leaders that they believe in, right? With any type of dissolution or any type of harm, they know they go in there and being successful. We bring up, as leaders ourselves, we bring up other leaders along with us because we cannot do it all on our own. And when we produce, other leaderships, we want to have a little bit of us, a little mini of us, right? Because they believe in that mission, vision, values for it. But if they also get that culture in there, it's an accelerator for them and us and the foundation that we're bringing up. I kid you not, at the national level, at the state level, even internationally, what we've seen is like, you only have that little tidbit. We always say, Doves or commercial, only like a 25% or 15% of moisturizer added in there. And that's all you need, right? And how do you differentiate yourself? But that is one of the things in your culture that's highly important to get in there because it's such a true, accelerator for you. Over in all care, it's a culture of safety. And anything as an open door will come to us, right? And we could have our arguments, but at the same time, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that all our team members and our partners are reassured that we're going into the right direction. And everyone else could also see that in the agency itself.
Thank you. Marty, I'll get you to answer that same question. How do you believe your company's culture is a reflection of who you are as a leader?
It's interesting because, as founders, our business is who we started out as. So I'm an Eagle Scout and a Scoutmaster. So, what do you know about Boy Scouts? We're helping the little lady across the street, and we're out in the community all the time, right? So when I founded HI&I, part of that was, how do we give back? How are we helpful? And that's really different from the way that most professional services companies work, right? It's consulting. Consultants can kind of get a bad rep, but we're there to truly help and to truly meet our clients where they are. And I think a lot of that comes from my background and just who I am, and kind of instilling that in my people. And I think a lot of the people that I hire, you go through the hiring process. It's horrible, right? It's multi-stage. It's how many different panels do you have to face off against? We don't do that. our culture is we're going to have a conversation because I need to get to know who you are as a person to figure out, can you do what it is that we do? Because it's about knowing that the people that you're hiring are a reflection of at least a little bit of who you are as the founder of the company, especially early on, right? And that may change as you grow, as you scale, and as you truly start to meet the mission and the vision and all of that, right? All the MBA terms, right? As you start to meet all of those things, you may start to pivot a little bit away from that, but at its core, your company is exactly who you are as a person, and it should reflect that. Because otherwise, why does your company exist? It's no different than everybody else if you're trying to be everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to sort of finish up here with 2 questions for the entire group. And so, given that we've got a limited amount of time here, we're just going to do 1 sentence. So we're really going to condense this for these last 2 sentences. And Andrew, we'll just work through down the panel.
Sure.
And the question is, what did you have to change in yourself to change your culture?
Ooh, that's a little bit loaded question.
Loaded
As,
question
founders,
for
right? What is that one thing, right? We always say like that one sentence as the founder that we have. Let it all go, right? Believe in the process. Let it all go.
Thank you. Erica?
Yeah, a little bit of a control freak. So yeah, you have to you have to just draw the line. I was on the phone and my husband was like, "You just told him how to do it," and I'm like, "Oh, you're right. Okay, gotta let the control go." But I replaced the control with train your people, right? Because when you train them, they know what to do. They're happy. It cuts out 60% of most of your issues around your whole company, right? Yeah. And when you train them, they come up with wonderful things that are outside of your wheelhouse even, and they make you look good.
Thank you.
Without the same amount of effort.
So just 1 sentence, Catherine.
Certainly. So for me, it was really recognising the power of curiosity and then asking questions of my people and realising that I didn't have to give the answers, but if I asked the right questions, I simply created the space for them to come up and flourish. And guess what? They came up with things well beyond what I would have thought about. So that was the most important thing for me.
I think I didn't change anything about myself in order to change the culture, but I did change the way that I do things. Similarly, you pivot from less doing to more instilling in others.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think for me, it's what I changed is just deepening my core beliefs, right? Because I think your core beliefs are the external of what you are. And so, I'm a pastor at heart, so at the end of the day, I just deepen my faith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also a pastor as well, so I get that. And so for me, it was very much about belief in myself as a leader, and to own that rather than to say that. So that was really important. And then our final question is recognising that people are here to hopefully embrace becoming a leader. We really need good quality leaders out in the world today, don't we? We can see that in everything that's going on. So the final question, again, just 1 sentence on each of these, is if you could give 1 piece of advice to a founder stuck in boss mode, what would that be? And we're going to work backwards, so I'll go first on this one. And my biggest piece of advice is gratitude. We have to start with gratitude. Gratitude for where you're at to start with, and then gratitude for me, for my team. I am so blessed by having the best team out in the world.
I would say there's 2 things. One is trust. Trust the vision you have, and also trust the people that you hire. You can't do it alone. You can't go at it alone. You have to trust. So
Awesome.
Trust.
Thank you.
This is fun. Being a founder is fun. So don't forget to not take yourself too seriously. Nobody gets out alive.
Awesome. Thank you.
Self-awareness, I think that's the key. Understanding who you are, how you show up, how you reflect what you are through your organisation is the first step to understanding what you might need to do to create the environment for your people to have that same space, to really step into who they can be.
Yeah, I agree with gratitude as well, because you're thankful for all the things that you can do, thankful for all the things that your teams can do, and then thankful for, working with your customers and vendors. That gratitude goes all the way around, and it makes the environment, especially a very high pressure environment, a lot more fun, basically, and you get to enjoy it a lot more. So.
And then for me, it's mostly reciprocity, right? As being Roman Catholic, it's like, do what you do to others as you would do for yourselves. And how would you put yourselves into their shoes? And then how would you actually have that journey with them is also important to close.
Thank you, everyone. Look, it's been an amazing journey to be here with these 6 amazing people up the front here. And hopefully you've got some wisdom out of this. We've got about 2 minutes left before we need to sort of get the big wind up. So I thought maybe if there's just anything else you'd like to add, one other thing that you may want to add that hasn't been said, you thought, gee, I wish I could tell people about this. What would that be? And let's work backwards again.
Gotcha.
Oh, we got a question.
Andrew, are you from the Philippines by any chance?
My background is Filipino, but born and raised in Los Angeles, Southern California.
The reason I'm asking is every single person who has been from the Philippines or affected in their child raising has brought that special touch of empathy that I've never seen in any other groups when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
To what extent has that impacted you on your professional choices?
The Philippines. I mean, we travel quite a bit. I would want to say the Philippines output probably the number one, I want to say health, you could kind of say, globally. But it influenced my leadership just because it's all about, giving back, right? We want to see that happy, joy, culture, safety in there, right? We want to see that not amongst ourselves, but everyone around us, right? Regardless of what's going on. And again, even if we have volcanoes, earthquakes, we could be underwater, our house is on fire, we're still there with a smile because we know that the community is able to support us, right? Again, you always have to take a look at it. It's like, hey, it's always sunny on the other side, it's green on the other side. But it's up to that culture of safety that we're always falling back on. And how do we create those communities and expand that out as best as we can from the Philippines?
It's great to see we've got a great multicultural group here, because you can tell by my accent I'm from Australia as well, so we've got a number of people. We need to wind up, so just maybe one sentence again for each person. And,
one sentence on...
Just parting
Erica,
words.
we'll go to you. Just anything else you want to add?
Thank you all for coming to our panel so early in the morning on the first day.
And finding the room.
Yes, and finding the room.
Yeah. One thing would be to say that these shifts don't happen by accident. They do need to be deliberate and planned, which is why I made the comment about self-awareness. You need to actually set that path and play. It's going to be iterative and it's going to be agile, but it's not going to happen by accident.
There's not a lot of signs around here, so the scout in me is like orienteering, so if you need help finding a place, I think I have the lay of the land.
I would just say, excellence comes through the execution of perseverance, and being able to show up every day with the goal in mind and the vision in mind. Perseverance is the biggest thing as a founder.
Awesome. And I just want to recognise just how amazing these people are, and can we all give them just a round of applause? I just want to finish by letting you know that we're not isolationists here, so there's someone you connect to and you go, gee, I want to know more, because we've just had a touch of each of these amazing people. So either it's myself or anyone else here, if there's someone else you want to come up, have a conversation, give us your card, we'll get in touch with you, and it'd be great to continue the conversation. Thank you, everyone.